It was the summer of 1984 in hot and sweaty Delhi. I was 12 going on 13 with all the typical angst involved in that messy transition from boy to not boy but not quite man. Typical 80s kid, completely unremarkable, skinny, small for my age, perpetually skinned knees, and of course the mandatory katori cut. Now some of you may know this, but a katori is a small bowl, and the katori cut is achieved by placing said bowl on your head and then cutting off all the bits that you can still see. Think of Friar Tuck basically. And I was sick of it. I was desperate to stand out, searching for my individuality and yearning to be taken seriously. And as with most such stories of childhood angst, the central character in my own personal opera was a girl. Her name was Anjali. She was vivacious, pretty, smart, and most importantly, just that little bit shorter than me. A large part of my life was spent daydreaming of ways and means of attracting her attention. I'd spent hours fantasizing about various improbable rescue scenarios, from burning buildings, hordes of rabid dogs, with me doing the rescuing and she the rescuee, obviously. I was so tired of being a boy, of the girls laughing at my jokes but then looking over my head at the cooler boys and seeing, have I been noticed laughing? I wanted to be one of those guys, with their baggy trousers, their white socks and rolled up sleeves. This was the 80s, remember? I didn't want to be nice and I did not want to be sweet. And I want to be noticed, most particularly by Anjali. And then suddenly one day, opportunity presented itself in the ample shape of Pammi Auntie from USA. Now, I don't know if, those of you who've lived through the deprivation of the 80s in India will immediately recognize the glamour and excitement of an NRI relative visiting from abroad. Those people just seemed made of money. And so Pammi Auntie casually gives me 10 rupees because she forgot to buy me a gift, she says. Buy yourself something you like, just like that, casual. 10 rupees. A world of infinite possibilities opened up in front of me. 10 rupees could go a long, long way in 1984. But I knew exactly what I was going to do with the money. I was going to get myself a proper haircut. Not the usual katori cut, you understand. This was going to be something special. I was going to go to Andre's, the only salon in the neighborhood. I'd only ever seen it from the outside. Those unspeakably cool adjustable red leather chairs, rows of mysterious bottles and lotions, blow dryers, and every once in a while, a glimpse of the peroxide blonde hair of Andre, the man himself. What better way could there be to lift myself out of obscurity and win the attentions of my girl? And I also knew exactly what cut I wanted. A dashing sweep of hair across the forehead, short on the sides with the tail at the back. Basically, I wanted to look exactly like Rick Astley. But I knew that a haircut at Andre's cost 15 rupees and not 10. I spent the next few days consumed by thoughts of how I was going to raise the remaining money. Mission 5 rupees. I had a poster in my room in those days, one of those super bikes leaning into a turn, and one of those cheesy slogans, a winner never quits, a quitter never wins. So I made this my mantra. I was so close, I was determined to succeed. But then, all the newspapers and old bottles had already been sold. The one extra cassette of Michael Jackson's Thriller I had, nobody wanted to buy. And finally I realized that I had no choice but to go to Rana. Clingy, wheezy, desperate for my friendship, Rana. I was using him, I knew that. But really, what choice did I have? Rana was the only one amongst my friends whose parents seemed to give him an unlimited supply of cash. As it turned out, going to Rana was a master stroke. He knew more about these things than I did, you see. Don't you know? He asked me. A tip would be expected. Now that was a close call. Imagine going to a fancy salon, getting a fancy haircut and slinking away without paying a tip. So Rana gave me 10 rupees instead of 5, and now I had 20, which was more than I had ever had in my entire life. I couldn't wait till Saturday for my appointment with Andres, and I couldn't wait for Monday to see Anjali's reaction. I decided that the situation would play out something like this. I'd walk past her, and she'd perk up, wondering, who's this new guy? And then she'd realize, it's me. And then she'd stutter and blush prettily. And I'd be completely blasé about it, of course, playing it totally cool. Hi, Angie. Or should it be Ange? No, that sounds like a skin condition. Maybe Angel. I don't know. Anyway, here I was then. Picture this. Money safely folded and kept in my back pocket. Weird feeling in the pit of my stomach like I haven't eaten in days. The fact that I was the shortest kid in the salon also did not help. The walls of the place were covered with posters of these impossibly handsome guys in all their bold hairstyles. And you know the ones, awkwardly grinning, looking into the middle distance. But I didn't need any of that. I knew exactly what I wanted. On closer inspection, Andres perhaps fell just a little short of the imagined ideal. There were bits of hair lying around, the red leather was a little worn and patched in places. Some overpowering smell of disinfectant. But no. Push these thoughts aside. These guys were professionals. This was going to work. This was Andres, after all. And now finally, it was my turn. My stylist was the skinny teenager with name tag saying Alan. Alan had grubby nails and acne spots, and some of the misgivings did return, but then he started to flick my hair from one side to the other, expertly. Oh yes, I knew this was going to work. I could feel my body unclench as I settled into the chair with a wiggle. I closed my eyes and I only opened them when the scissors stopped snipping and the blow dryer stopped humming. This was it. Wow. Would you look at me? The sweep up from the front, the shorter buzz on the side, the back may take a little longer to grow, but everything else was just perfect. Alan had earned his tip fair and square. I cycled back home with hot flushes of excitement exploding in my chest. I would have to deal with my mom when she saw me like this, but that was a price that I would happily pay. Mom's reaction when I got home was a little difficult for me to decipher. Was that a hint of a smile right there? She was just probably amazed at how quickly her little boy was growing up. Beta, you didn't tell me you're getting a haircut, she said, her tone non-committal. I shrugged, nonchalant. I was cool. We don't answer these kind of questions. I went to the room and stood in front of the mirror. Then I started to try on different looks to see how they would go with my hairstyle. Leather jacket, check. Casual t-shirt, check. Pullover casually draped over my shoulders, check. Modeling was suddenly a real career option, I thought. Dinner was a rushed affair. I was too preoccupied with thoughts of all these new me scenarios playing out in my head, obviously involving Anjali. I replayed the burning building scenario, for example. And my haircut just made everything seem so much more real and believable. As I was walking away from that inferno in slow motion, the wind going through my hair, Anjali safely tucked in my arms. Perhaps for the first time in my life, I wished I could delete Sunday and go straight to Monday. As I jumped out of bed the next morning, the first thing my mother tells me is go have a bath. And yes, I do have bits of hair sticking all over me, so I don't argue. Shower done, I head for the mirror. Damp hair plastered to my head, but no cause for concern. I had seen exactly how Alan pulled the front out and flipped it back to create that classic sweep effect. He'd used a roller brush, and I only had a comb, but it should work just as well. Made a mental note to invest in a roller brush at some point in the future. So, pull it out, sweep it back. Flops over to one side. Oh, okay, maybe the hair is just damp, and I don't have a blow dryer, but some thorough toweling should take care of this. Come on, that's better. Carefully engage comb, gently pull forward, flick back. What the hell? It's kind of falling all over to one side. Okay, once more, even slowly this time, and actually it's all in the wrist. So, pull out slowly, flick back like that. I could hear Mum calling me for breakfast. My face was blank as I tried the special maneuver for the 25th time with no success. Tears began to prick in my eyes as I pressed the comb painfully into my scalp, trying to recreate the magic. It was hopeless. Jagged spikes stuck out on one side, and a longer portion flopped stupidly to one side. Utterly, utterly hopeless. Rick Astley would be ashamed. Mum was outside the bathroom door. Everything okay, beta? Nope. No, it's not okay. And there's nothing that anybody could do about it. How the hell am I going to face Anjali? And don't even get me started on what the other boys are going to do to me. Couldn't I just spend the rest of my life here? I mean, there was water, I could put towels on the floor. But Mum was getting quite relentless outside, and also a little worried. I finally emerged to an exclamation of surprise, dismay from my mother. Beta, your hair. And then I couldn't keep it in anymore. I burst into tears, then I sobbed and I wept and I clung to her. It was all so unfair. She held on to me and let me get it out of my system, held me at arm's length and said, okay, let's see what we can do about this. Ultimately, there was really nothing anybody could do. Mum explained that my ambitious style would require hair gel, special brushes and blow drying, which obviously I couldn't do every morning, even assuming I had a blow dryer. So just to save me from going through life looking like a cross between a porcupine and a sheared sheep, my mother attempted a rescue and snipped off the more offending bits to make things look relatively neat and normal. I was back to being a boy. Sadder, maybe a little wiser, but still just a little boy. My eyes still felt raw from crying, and the crushing disappointment of Sunday dulled into an ache in my chest as I walked into school on Monday. I brutally suppressed all thoughts of the pleasant fantasies I'd built up for this moment, because that would mean I'd start crying again. And if the guys saw me crying in school, that would be the end of my life as I knew it. Your hair looks funny. And here it comes. But wait, I knew that voice. I turned. Good morning to you too, Anjali. She laughed. Sorry, it's just sticking out from the back. I said something clever, I think, then. Something self-deprecatory. Got her laughing, got chatting, and just like that, she came and sat next to me in chemistry class. I'd love to tell you that one thing led to another, sparks flew. But the truth is, 6 months later, she left school. I never saw her again. Unsurprisingly, life moved on. But I learned an important lesson that day. Confidence and a sense of humor will get you a lot further in life and love than any fancy hairstyle. A very useful lesson for me, as it turned out.